requires absolute zero to maintain its state. A decentralized farm operates in the heat of the sun. Quantum computing relies on massive capital and absolute centralization. To function, it needs towering dilution refrigerators and an immense structural framework just to maintain its operating environment. That architecture is incompatible with the reality of an autonomous, off-grid Pan-African future. Here, survival depends on extreme decentralization and the localized communal processing of physical resources without a brittle reliance on centralized grids. Importing Western AI architecture directly into the global South risks a state of digital feudalism. Decentralized solar arrays, water caches, and agricultural plots could easily become hidden rent machines, where a distant compute monopoly ends up controlling the optimization and distribution of local resources. True post-colonial sovereignty requires decoupling high-intensity computation from these extractive business models. Resolving this tension between advanced technology and autonomous living is the central architectural problem of the next decade. Theorist Benoit Nounier-Lapierre proposes a strict solution to this problem, a framework he calls ontological and infrastructural sovereignty. The Kenema district of Sierra Leone serves as the operational evidence for this framework, a proof of concept known as the Kenema synthesis. The Kenema model integrates advanced quantum logic by actively filtering it through indigenous African knowledge systems. Standard AI integration forces communities to adapt to the machine's parameters. The Kenema approach forces the machine's mathematical logic to adapt to the community. This requires re-engineering the AI's architectural foundation to make computation habitat-answerable and kinship-bounded. The compound proves that high-intensity computation can serve a localized group without dictating its cultural and ecological rhythms. The first protocol required to bridge this paradox is what Nounier-Lapierre calls asymmetrical computational subsidiarity. An autonomous off-grid unit does not need to own the massive quantum hardware stack to exercise computational sovereignty. Instead, they rely on a quantum atmospheric mesh. A centralized facility links to scattered local nodes. When the Kenema node requires a compute cycle, it sends a secure request. The energy-intensive processing happens centrally, but the hub only returns raw probability sets, not binding commands. By expelling the heavy computational heat of the quantum core to a distant facility, the local node achieves cryofugal autonomy, freedom from the physical requirements of the center. Once the data returns, it is localized, weighted, and interpreted exclusively by the community's own cultural and ecological parameters. Relegating the AI to an advisory role ensures that while the heavy computation happens remotely, interpretive sovereignty remains strictly local. We see this local sovereignty at work daily when the Kenema node manages its flex resources, distributing water allocation and solar energy across a closed-loop system. Colonial resource extraction operated as a one-way pipeline. The off-grid model relies on flux resource reciprocity, where resources circulate in regenerative, closed loops. To manage these loops, a classical AI model uses Boolean logic to enforce a single, rigid path of maximum mathematical efficiency. This introduces the threat of techno-deterministic optimization. Standard models view human fatigue, cultural rituals, or ecological nuance simply as statistical noise to be eliminated. The Kenema model solves this by replacing rigid algorithms with fuzzy quantum logic. Qualitative variables, like ancestral planting cycles, are assigned mathematical quantum weights. The rigid line of efficiency softens into a probability cloud showing multiple viable paths. This leads to a governance principle known as humane underdetermination. It establishes an ethical limit of determinism. There is an exact moment where the community deliberately chooses a mathematically suboptimal path for the sake of preserving a cultural practice or resting the soil. The human interference pattern retains ultimate veto power over any suggestion the AI makes. By softening optimization into probability, the community prevents the AI from overriding the bioharmonic index of their lived reality. Maintaining sovereignty also requires solving the hidden danger of purely digital networks, deterritorialization. Fetishizing digital nomadism and cloud computing creates a severe risk. It threatens to erase the physical, land-based justice claims that are essential to post-colonial recovery. To counter this, the Kenema node developed a mechanism called cryptographic land binding. The physical, biometric, and GPS data of the Kenema farm is hashed directly into a decentralized blockchain network. This creates topo-fluid rootedness. It allows the community to engage in global digital networks while maintaining a firm, regenerative presence on their specific soil. That physical anchor enables a system of dual logic trade. The node can swap surplus solar energy or biodiversity credits with an adjacent district over the encrypted network. This encrypted peer-to-peer exchange actively bypasses predatory central banks and fiat currencies entirely. As a result, the off-grid node secures operational autonomy, remaining functionally independent of state-level grid failures or economic collapse. Cryptographic land binding creates a borderless grounding. The community renders itself invisible to extractive states, yet remains hypervisible and secure within its own network. There is one final systemic challenge for this model to solve: the scale paradox. Attempting to scale a single, homogeneous technological system across the vastly heterogeneous Pan-African landscape is merely a repeat of neo-colonial structural adjustment programs. The required alternative is a scaling structure known as fractal modularity. A fully realized network operates as an archipelago of innovation. Instead of one continental machine, we see many highly localized nodes. Stability is achieved through resonant interoperability, not forced uniformity. Nodes share data only when mutually beneficial, never merging into a master system. This creates a deep biological resilience. Because these units do not share a central command, if one node fails, the systemic integrity of the whole network remains entirely uncompromised. The architecture moves smoothly from the cryogenic central core through the probability mesh down to the off-grid Kenema compound. At every step, indigenous knowledge systems act as the ultimate epistemic firewall against digital feudalism. The Kenema synthesis proves that adopting high technology does not require the erasure of local ancestral specificities. True technological acceleration functions as a controlled ascent, where computation serves the lived world, rather than acting as its secret landlord.